Hi, today I want to show you how to create 3D collectibles with sound. So let's start from scratch. The only things I have right now is my Cinemachine 3D camera and my player movement script. If you want to know how to set up those things, go check out my other video on player movement. But for now, let's just set up a scene. I'll start out by creating a plane. I'll just scale it a bit to make it a bit bigger. I'll rename it to ground. You don't have to rename it. I just like to do that for the sake of simplicity. Now let's create our player. Let's use a capsule for this. Call this player, move it up a bit, just so it's just above ground. And the last thing we need is the collectible. So I'm just going to create a sphere. I'm gonna call this coin. Now let's just add some quick materials to make the scene a bit more lively. I've created a materials folder, so if you don't have that, you can go ahead and create it. Let's create a new material. Let's call this ground material. Let's create another material, player material. Let's create a third material, coin material. Now let's just go to a player material. You can change the base map to change the color of it. Now it's red. Let's make a grassy plane for a ground material. That's for the coin material. Let's make this a yellow, kind of gold yellow. If you want your coin to shine a bit more, you can raise the smoothness like this. Now it shines a bit more. And then you actually just take the materials and drag them on. I'll take the ground material, drag it onto the ground. Layer material, add it here. Let's take the coin material, add it to the sphere. Doesn't really look like a coin right now, more looks like a yellow ball. So what I will do is go to the coins inspector, scale it on the x-axis. Just set it almost all the way down, like 0.05. I think I'll have it at. As you can see, it looks more like a coin now. Let's just put it on the ground. We need to collect it at some point. Well, okay, so we need to add some movement to our player. I'll add the player movement script. Again, if you don't have player movement, just go to my other video about player movement. The whole script is in the description of the video. You can just copy and paste it in here. Now that the player can move, the next thing we need for the player to actually collect the coin is a rigid body. So add component again, then add a rigid body. So now comes the part where we have to customize our collectible. Let's add a script to this. Let's call it Collectible. Now, after we open up a script, just take a quick sec to think about what we want to do. For my coin, I want to make it rotate. I want to be able to actually collect the object. And I also want to be able to play a sound when collecting the object. So I actually don't need the start method for this. I'll just go ahead and delete this so I clutter up our code too much. So first off, let's handle the rotation. I need some kind of speed to set how fast it will rotate. So for this, I will serialize a field so I can use it in the editor. It will be a float and I will call it rotation speed. And I'll just set the speed at 2. We also wanted to play a sound when collecting the object, so I'll need some kind of audio player for that. Again, I'll serialize this field. I'll create an audio source with the creative name of audio source. Now for the update is where we'll handle the rotation of the coin. So we want to use the transform because that handles the rotation of the object. Well, to make it rotate, would make sense to try and type something like rotate. This rotation, we'll use rotate, applies a rotation. Makes sense. It's a vector 3, so we need x, y, and z scale. Well, it will be 0 on the x angle. We want to rotate it on the y angle. So rotation speed and 0 on the z angle. And to collect something, we need to collide with it. But the thing about colliding with something, if we don't want it to stop our movement, which we don't, we just want it to disappear and like we're walking right through it, we actually need to use the trigger function. So if you go to the coins inspector, go down to the sphere collider, and there's this trigger, and make sure that this is enabled. As you can see from the text, if you just hover your mouse, if enabled, this is ignored by the physics engine. This makes sure that we can't collide with it per se, but we just walk right through it as if it wasn't even there, which works best for collectibles. So therefore in the script, we'll use the on trigger enter. Make sure you use the on trigger enter and not the on trigger enter 2D. That's for 2D games only, as the name states. So this is when we collide with our game object. Well, what do we need to do? We need to make sure that our sound for collecting the object will play and the game object disappears. So we can go to our audio source, .play. Now a sound plays, and then we want to make the game object disappear. So we can use the destroy game object. If we do this now, this actually won't work because the game object is destroyed in an instant, and then the audio source actually won't have time to play the sound before the game object is destroyed. So what we need to do is add a delay before the game object is destroyed. So if you go into the parentheses after game object, just set a comma. As you can see, it says a float t. So the optional amount of time to delay before destroying the object. So here we can actually add a delay. Now what we could do is set the time manually and create a float value ourselves, but then we will have to check the exact playtime of the audio file. So instead we use the audio source.clip.length. So this ensures that the delay is exactly the length of the audio clip we're playing. So make sure to save the script, and then in the editor, if you go to the coin inspector, you can see now there's a rotation speed and there's the audio source. So where do we get the audio source from? Well, we need to add a new component. Use the audio source here. Now it has an audio source. So we can actually take this audio source, drag it up here. Now we need the audio file to play. What I did to find the sound I showed you in the example in the beginning of the video was that I went to this site called Pixabay. It has a bunch of free assets, sound effects, images, videos, everything. And I searched for Collectible and I found this retro coin sound. Perfect for our game. And what you do is just press the download button and you get the sound completely free. So shout out to Drick and Stan for producing this sound. So now you can open up your Unity editor and go to where you have the sound and just drag the file in here in the assets folder. As you can see, it now says retro coin here. If I want to check the sound, I can click it and drag this up to see the example. Perfect. So now we go to the coin. We have the audio resource. This is what the audio source wants to play. And we'll just drag the coin sound in here. So just a quick recap. We set the rotation speed of our object. We added the audio source. We made it rotate with our set rotation speed on the angle we wanted. Then we played the audio source. And then afterwards, we're going to destroy the game object so it disappears from our game, but delay it with the length of the audio clip. Now, the last thing we want to do before pressing play is if you go to your coin sound and go to the audio source inspector, you can see play on awake. This means that it will play the sound the minute you begin your game. We don't want that because we haven't collected any coins yet. So we'll just disable this. And now we can press play. Our coin is rotating. Now we'll try to collect it. Perfect. And it disappears from our game and the sound is played.